Hey, this is Christopher with another episode of Take 5, where we take a topic and break it down into 5 parts in hopefully 5 minutes. Before we get into this video, let's roll that beautiful B-roll. Hey, Christopher, and today I'm talking about the 5 reasons why you should do a life audit. So to get started, you have to ask the question, what is a life audit? For me, every holiday season around December, I always like to use this as a time of reflection. I've been doing this since I was in college because for me it was a time where you were sort of at the end of the semester, you had your break, and then the new year was right ahead of you. So it was a good time to sort of invest emotionally and introspectively into how the year went and what could lead towards next year's success. So here's the first thing that I look at: personal growth. I don't want to be stuck in a rut. I don't want to be the same person that I was last year. I want to move past some of my hurts, hang-ups, and maybe negative habits. So I always look at things that I struggle with, and I start to write down some of the things that I've struggled with this year. And in that, every year I make it my effort to work on those things. And there are tons of resources out there. Again, YouTube is just a wealth of information, but LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, Audible, there's so many resources on these platforms for personal development and introspection and better understanding why you do what you do, and maybe to mitigate or adjust some of your patterns to lead to maybe some healthier habits. Anyway, so personal development is one of those things, and there's lots of assessments out there to kind of measure yourself and your strengths and your weaknesses. I would take a look at them. I'll put a few in the link in the description below that are examples. Certainly not the definitive list, but a place to get started. The second thing I would look at is professional development. Now, over the last couple years, I've been working on college work. I got a project management certificate from Louisiana College last year. I'm working on another degree from an institution in New Orleans. And I think it's just so important to keep your mind sharp. But on top of those, I'm always looking at areas where I can improve myself professionally, and not just in the ways that are relating to my job. Certainly for me as a technical consultant, developing those skills, but also working on things like emotional intelligence, learning to communicate better, how to have meetings shorter and more effective so that you take less time but get more done. These are always things that I'm working on to improve. And I think it's a tendency for us to kind of lean to our strengths. And again, I would look at that from an assessment standpoint, look at things that can help you, or getting feedback from others about what are some things that you could work on to improve. Now that's tough. I used to hate self-assessments, but now I really look forward to them because they're opportunities for, again, number one, personal growth, but also, of course, professional growth. The third reason that I would say to do a life audit, and the thing that I put in my life audit, is to sort of establish financial health. Finances are often uncomfortable for most folks. My mentor once said, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. And often we don't set financial goals because they're just overwhelming and money becomes stressful. The first thing that I had to do is de-emotionalize money. It's just a thing. It's just numbers on a piece of paper. Now I know the emotional weight of paying bills, paying a mortgage, paying a car note, but one of the things that we have to do is sort of map out our budget. Now normally we are not that good at that. Now if you're good with money, this doesn't apply to you, but maybe some folks out there are like me. The first thing that I would do is to map out, how are you spending your money this year? It's painful to look at, but you have to rip the band-aid off and sort of look at it and say, hey, where do we spend our money and how can we adjust some of that? Now it's easy to justify it, but that's when you start to want to set goals. Things like, do you want a retirement? Do you want to have investments? How much do you want to have in the bank in case of a rainy day, or in case of South Louisiana, a hurricane day, right? These are all the things that we as adults have to prepare for, and there's often not a really crystal clear guideline on how to do that. But thankfully your bank and other, again, resources available like on LinkedIn Learning or YouTube or other many platforms. For me, it was LinkedIn Learning, where I learned just sort of the ropes on how to deal with finance. There's also great resources like the Money Matters podcast, and learning to get debt free. So there's a really great speaker who has a saying. He says, you got to live like no one else so you can live like no one else. It's basically this idea of stop thinking just in momentary spending and start thinking long term. His name is Dave Ramsey. I'll put a link to his course and resources. It does cost money, and I get the irony that you have to spend money to save money, but trust me, for me, it allowed me to get debt free in 2014. We bought a home, but we're working on being debt free, and outside of our house, that's the only debt that we have. And thanks to that resource and many others that I've learned, it really helps. So every year I look ahead and see, how did I spend money this year, and what am I doing to ensure my retirement, my future? Maybe it's putting something for your kids aside for college, whatever the case may be. Looking at your money and making some goals or setting some standards for yourself of how you're handling your money, I think is super important. Again, it's a touchy subject, and I know it's tough to talk about. I lived in insecurity and fear for a very long time, but it was definitely liberating when I began to peel the Band-Aid off, take a look at it, and start to set some reasonable goals that I could start to achieve over a long period of time. The fourth thing I would say that I do in my audit is health. In 2017, I was admitted into the intensive care unit in Lake Charles, Louisiana, in a state of ketoacidosis, and spent 4 nights in ICU, and then left the fourth day, or 3 nights in ICU and then left the fourth day. And it was a life-changing experience. But after that, I began to become really sensitive about my health, emotionally, stress-wise, what I was eating, my activity. These all became center stage because my blood sugar, which affects so much of how I felt and ultimately needed to be addressed if I wanted to not end up back in a hospital, became center stage. I would say, like the last topic, health is a bit of a mystery for most folks because it involves numbers. And again, I'm not a math person. I'm not good, quote unquote, with math, but I began to draw some things out. And just like with budgeting, I began to look at my food budget and say, first off, before I make any big grand gestures and hopeful ideas about what I'm going to change, I've got to understand what I'm doing first. So I wrote down everything that I was eating, and then as I began to evaluate it and make some changes and pick some different products and start looking at labels, I was able to lose roughly 50 pounds in 8 months and successfully get off of my insulin and the metformin, which was the thing I was taking to help to process sugar. And so these all were huge steps, but again, it was things that I had to start making some subtle changes. I also started walking every day, between 2 and 4 miles a day. And this really led to a revolution of my health. Now, every year, I always kind of measure it and see where I'm at. And I have some baselines that I keep up. But like anybody, we rise and fall. My weight goes up, weight goes down. And as you look at your year ahead, you've got to look at how the year was before and look at all the contributing factors. This, again, is part of what the audit's about. It's not just about feeling bad. Hey, what led to some of that weight gain? What led to me not exercising so much? What led to that dietary habit that I began to develop? What did I change? What was in the situations, and how can I look to my future and start to be intentional about avoiding those things or changing it, or just setting some standards for myself, again, where you say, this is how I'm going to do it, and I really can't budge on it. I can't really have any cheat days with these kinds of things, but maybe I'll make some exceptions with these kind of things. So health is really, really important, and you've got to look at where you've come from to start setting some goals to the future. So again, you can make, like your finances, some small changes that will have some long-term effects. The fifth major one, and I think this is the one that is most important, is what are your goals? That's the fifth thing that I do in my life audit. What goals did I set last year that I wanted to accomplish, that I had said, man, I really love if we did this, or I'd like to do this? What goals have you moved from intention to execution? And for me, this life audit is really about accountability, right? So setting those goals is awesome, and we have to do it. We have to have something to look forward to. We need hope. We need something like purpose to live for. And really, as we're planning our future, to me, that gives a sense of purpose. But unfulfilled hopes and dreams, those can lead to deep disappointment, despair, depression, all kinds of negative feelings. So for me, setting some goals is only as good as the accountability. And that really is those two things in one. The life audit is about setting goals about my future. What do I want to do this year? What do I want to accomplish? How do I want to be more present with my family? How can I be more present with my friend? How can I be more generous with my community or my house of worship? Those are all things that I think we have to set as part of our life audit, but then have a level of accountability when you circle back in 365 days and start to review your year from the previous year and start to plan for the next year. You have to have a level of accountability so that you do it. Now, I don't know where you're at, but for me, starting a life audit and continuing to do it year after year has been so valuable. Are there some hard moments where I realize I didn't achieve the goals I wanted to? Absolutely. But I find myself looking and seeing, and in those down moments where you're struggling and you're not sure and you begin to let insecurity and fear begin to creep back in, what's nice about the life audit is it reminds you of the truth of where you've come, how far you've come, how fast you've gotten there, and how consistent you've been along the way. And also to look at the areas where, you know what, I'm human too. Those are some things I need to work on, and that's what next year's about. Something to challenge myself and push myself forward. Well, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Take 5. This one's near and dear to my heart because I've been doing it. I encourage everyone in my circle to do a life audit. But if you want to learn more, you can always message us, support@rootedconsulting.org. We actually offer life coaching services. So if you're looking for some growth, whether it be personal or professional, we're here to help. As always, we hope that you're doing well. We hope that you're staying safe. We'll see you in the next one. But before you do, don't go yet. Don't forget to click that like button if you like this video. Crush the subscribe button to see more videos like it. And hit the notification bell to see when we're producing new content. We'll see you in the next one.